Okay, so this question says, what are the factors of the quadratic equation? X squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 3, and then solve the equation. So generally speaking, when they ask you what are the factors of the quadratic equation, it's similar to saying write the equation in the factored form, you know, and we know that our factored form is x plus m times x plus n. All right, so that's the aim, and then we eventually want to, in order to solve, we set it equal to 0. So if we're looking at the equation that we're seeing right now, it is not equal to 0. It's equal to 3, right? And so to start off, what we want to do is we want to set the equation equal to 0. So that means for us to do that, we're going to have to subtract 3 from both sides of the equation. So that is how we are going to start. So we're going to start off by setting the equation equal to 0, as I said, which means we're subtracting 3 from both sides, which means we now have x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. We're then going to use the reverse distributive property by using the box method to figure like what the factors are. So when we draw our box, we know that in our first box, we definitely should have just x squared. That's given by x times x. And then we know we're going to have a plus 5 right here. And what are the factors of a positive 5? We could have a positive multiplied by a positive to give a positive, or we could have a negative divided by a negative. That gives a positive result. Since the b term is a negative and it's a negative 6, we're going to assume that both of our factors will have to be negative. So a negative 1 times negative 5 seems to be the factors that would work in this particular case. So if we put negative 1 here, then this would be a negative 1x. And if we put negative 5 here, this would be a negative 5x. And a negative times a negative gives a positive result. So when we simplify that, we have x squared minus 1x minus 5x plus 5 is equal to 0, right? Which is the same thing as x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. So what we're recognizing is that the factors of this particular equation, quadratic equation, would be x minus 1 times x minus 5. And then in order for us to solve, we would need to set that equal to 0 and solve. Now, according to the zero product property, we know that either the first factor x minus 1 is going to be equal to 0, or the second factor x minus 5 is equal to 0. So if these are our factors, then the zeros of the equation can be found by setting each of the factors equal to 0. If the first factor x minus 1 is equal to 0, we can solve by adding 1 to both sides, which means x is equal to 1. If the second factor x minus 5 is equal to 0, we can solve by adding 5 to both sides, which means x is equal to 5. So our solution would be x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 5.